Good afternoon and welcome to the April Duluth Public School Regular School Board meeting. We are glad to have you all here today. I'm going to turn it over to Clerk Mike Cassell to do roll call.
Member Banks.
Here.
Chair Derek Eater.
Present.
Member Loeffler Kemp. Here. Member Lofald. Here. Member Mike Sell is here. Member Sadowski.
Here.
Member Williams. Here. Superintendent Magus.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Bonds. Present. Deputy Clerk Zunich.
Present.
Executive Director of HR and Operations Severance.
Present.
Secretary Paquette. Here. Student Representative Garnes is excused. Student Representative Taylor is excused. And Student Representative Dean.
Present.
Thank you. Now that we've completed the roll call, we can stand if you're willing to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and now we will move forward with the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
We have, we have a motion, thank you, from Member Lofald. We're looking for a second.
Second.
Member Mike Cassell seconded. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye of approving the agenda.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to school and community recognition, and I'd like to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds. Well, that's another tough act to follow, Superintendent Magus. It's been a great meeting. We had the Sterling Strings, and then we had Denfeld boys basketball. It's just been a smiley meeting. So at this point in our meeting, I'll turn it over to the report of the superintendent for Superintendent Magus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. So for our superintendent's report today, we have, of course, we always share our mission, our vision, and our values. Our mission is that every student every day will be empowered with learning opportunities for growth, creativity, and curiosity in preparation for their future in a global community. Our vision is that Duluth Public Schools provides an academically engaging, safe, and inclusive environment with high expectations and responsible use of resources. And our core values are learning, excellence, equity, collaboration, and belonging. Our topics for tonight, we have our student reports from our student representatives. We have a few people who were unable to attend, but we have a report from Kate Dean, our East representative. And then we have some conversation on some recognition days, talking a little bit about budget reduction and realignments, and some legislative updates. But we always start with the best part first and start with our student report. So Representative Dean, are you ready?
All right, good evening. I am excited to share that at each and every student forum meeting, there is better and better attendance, with I think around 80 kids coming on our last pause day, which is very exciting. I will be hosting 2 meetings during the day tomorrow, and I'll make sure to base some of the questions I ask on things that we discuss here tonight. Today, both the Climate Club and the Key Club are holding Earth Day events. Many members of Climate Club and other students participated in today's rally and march. Recently, the Climate Club received a $1,500 grant to further their composting project, and they'll be taking a field trip soon to help plant 1,000 trees. It's definitely one of our very, very involved groups. This weekend, on Sunday, a handful of East students will be competing at the State History Day competition in the Twin Cities. East has a really strong record of successes with that, with multiple awards every year and national qualifiers. So I'm very excited to hear about those results. Track is East's largest spring sport, and the season is in full swing with the meet coming up this Friday. Boys tennis, baseball, softball, and boys and girls lacrosse have also been staying very busy. Speaking of girls lacrosse, East Student Government is excited to be hosting a parking lot tailgate prior to the May 19th Sophie's Squad game. Sophie's Squad is an organization named after Sophie Weiland, a 14-year-old athlete who committed suicide in 2021. The organization works to raise awareness around mental health, especially for young athletes. The girls lacrosse team, made up of both East and Denfeld players, will be partnering with them on May 19th, and we're excited for the events, activities, and fundraising all connected to this game. In connection to mental health awareness, students all around the district have been participating in an ice bucket challenge, which has been sponsored by the University of South Carolina's Mind Club. This is maybe seeming a little random, but I think that it's really relevant within our district just because of the huge number of students participating. The goal of this challenge is to reduce stigma around conversations about mental health, and I'd say the majority of the people that I follow on Instagram get buckets of water dumped on their head. I've personally seen this challenge take over social media with friends from New York City, Virginia State, California, Wisconsin, the Twin Cities, and all around Duluth, Carlton, and Hermantown, all participating. This just goes to show that students need strong and clear access to the destigmatization and mental health resources. So in connection to mental health, I definitely notice and feel the effects of getting so close to the end of the year. With our 7-period schedule and few opportunities to catch up, many students feel as if they're drowning in work. That, coupled with the yearly spring fever, makes for patterns of high stress and low focus. I've had multiple questions from students about our schedule for next year that I haven't necessarily been able to answer, so I'd love to hear some updates about where you're at in that decision-making process and what sort of student feedback you've taken into account. It's really exciting for me to receive questions about decisions that are being made and how those decisions were reached. And with that, this is my obligatory reminder and encouragement to keep students in the loop. Often we don't find out about something until the decision has already been settled on, which means that it's too late for you to consider our voices. And then with that said, I'd like to share some about what students really do and want more information on. At our last student forum meeting, students had conversations about a variety of issues, including what they feel are the biggest issues around student safety, what they'd like to see from a citywide student council, how much information they feel that they gain from the district digest, specific things that they've struggled with and are looking forward to, and discussions they'd like to have in future student forum meetings. And with that, also what I can do to better communicate to and from students. As always, I have so many more details about every single one of these topics, and I'd love it if you ask me for more, but I won't suck up all of our time, so thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dean. So I also want to let you know and remind you, and also the board, that on Wednesday, May 7th in Fergus Falls, there is a student school board representative conference, and we would be glad to help sponsor that. I know Chair Durek Eater and I have talked about what we might be able to do to help provide or assist with transportation or things of that nature. I've also been working with Director Larva on our plan for how we can best support the kickoff and the formation and the development of that student representative intra-city student council. And actually was speaking with an outside group that does a lot of work with facilitation of getting that type of thing off the ground. Shakopee is a district that has a really robust student leadership group, and they kicked off theirs by using this group. So I think that there are a variety of things that we want to do. I think that during the school year we were pretty busy with some of the budget reduction aspects, and I think that turning our attention to make sure that we have robust support for the student leadership and student voices so that we can have things well in place for next year and begin things this year will be very important to us. So just wanted to say thanks for that. And then thinking about recognition, we have many different days, but since there are two that are very close, one is today. Today is School Bus Driver Appreciation Day, and we are so grateful for the work of our transportation professionals. Not only do they provide a safe and reliable service, getting our students to and from school every day, they often are the first and last smile that they see from our staff every day. And my father was a bus driver. I know I've said that a couple of times, but when I talked about how difficult classroom management was, he always said, well, John, try doing it when you're driving down the road at 55 miles an hour. So I think that there's a lot to bus driving. There's a lot to getting our students to and from, to the routing, to the bus helpers, to the mechanics. We look across and you can see our transportation building over there, and there's a lot of hard work that goes in there to support our kids. And tomorrow is Administrative Professionals Appreciation Day. And we're deeply appreciative of everything that our school secretaries, executive assistants, and other clerical colleagues do each and every day to support our students, staff, and families. And I'd like to give a special thanks to Executive Assistant Patty Paquette, who is not only serves as executive assistant to me as superintendent, but is also the secretary and executive assistant to the board. And so we just want to say thank you to you as well. Now, talking about some of the things that we've had a lot of conversation about budget reduction and realignment, and we've heard about some of the impacts of some of the reductions. So I thought it would be good during my superintendent's report to kind of walk through where we've been and with the budget reduction process, what frameworks we've used for that, as well as to talk about some of the changes and things that we've looked at related to the music programming, since that was a topic that I knew was going to be very front and center for us. But as we heard as well, it's not just music that people are concerned about. We've had very, very significant reductions in a variety of areas. So just as far as the process that we've had, in this past summer, the board directed administration to develop an inclusive process to create a comprehensive list of reductions, rather than create a menu of individual reductions for the board to choose from, because that was a difficult thing. We could have come with a list of 100 things that could be reduced and with the costs, and then figure out as a board where we wanted to make those reductions. But at that point, the board wanted us to come forward as an administrative team and working with stakeholders and bring forward a comprehensive list. As part of that process, the board worked very closely with us, with the administration, to create our budget reduction and realignment guiding change document. I've linked that before quite a few times. I didn't link it in today, but I'd be glad to share it if anybody would like to see it, which then went through board approval. And then the administration, we used that guiding change document as well as our educational leadership system framework and other processes to listen to stakeholder feedback and create a list of our budget reductions. And it has not been easy for us. None of these reductions are easy. And I think that as we hear, there are oftentimes competing needs and competing interests, and it's a very, very difficult process, but we're trying to do our best. And again, because of the state situation with our budgets, and because of the reduction in federal aid, and the difference between what we receive each year compared to the cost of education going up, we, like many other districts, are having to make a significant course correction of about $7.6 million. I'd also like to remind the public that had our referendum passed, we would have had better funding for technology, which would have resulted in $2 million less reduction than we're making now. So that has had pretty significant impact too. So we're in a challenging place and we're making challenging decisions, but just wanted to lay out how is it that we're doing so. So that, well, actually I didn't need to link the guiding change because it's right there. But really a lot of what we talked about is why do we need to make the reduction? What are the things that we're going to avoid doing? And like, we're not going to break any laws, we can't break contract, we can't go into statutory operating debt, and we need to make sure that we have data-based and stakeholder-based decision, but that we would be the ones that would come forward with those decisions. And then as far as what it was that we're seeking to do, we need to have a balanced budget. That was the top priority, but we also wanted to make sure we had a transparent process, and that really that we were focused on prioritizing classroom needs as much as possible. And the way that we consider classroom needs, it all varies. You could consider many things classroom need, but in many respects, we were hearing a lot about class size, particularly because many of our classes are at 35 to 40 on average, not as just an anomaly, but some of our classes, many of our classes at East are at 35 or more, same with Ordine. And so making sure that we weren't just taking it out of class size was something that was important. We also talked about making sure that we're aligning to our priorities of supporting every student, advancing equity, and improving systems, and that we would continue to examine all of our processes to seek efficiencies. So when I said that one of the documents we used was the educational leadership system, this is one of the frameworks in the way that we look at our district. Really, we try and focus, and our strategic roadmap focuses on what are the desired daily experiences of our students, staff, and families. And really, there is a group of people, the board included, as well as administration, which includes district administration and the principal group, that is focused on what are the district interests, right? Because stakeholders, there are many stakeholders who have varied opinions. We want to listen to that stakeholder input, but really it's up to the management team to come up with what are the recommendations based on that input. And then it's up to the board as a governance body to decide how it is that they want to make decisions based on those recommendations coming forward. So those are the different areas. So again, we work using stakeholder voice, and then our design teams working together. We met with our principals from the various levels, and then the directors working with those principals, as well as working with the administration here at district office. We came forward with recommendations based on what the principals felt was important based on our input, working together with us. And we did We did change some things too. Like, for instance, with music, for instance, initially we were looking at the possibility of having a reduction of all support for the individual lessons in small group, but we decided that that wasn't what we wanted to do, so we added back the half that we did. So we recommended moving forward with the pull-out model, which still maintains some of the support. We realized that is not as good. Same with library media specialists. There was a situation where we looked at reducing library media specialists down to half-time at the high school and not having additional support at the high school to keep the libraries open. We listened to the feedback and we added back there. So in some ways, it's been a situation where we built shared understanding with stakeholder voice, and then the decision makers, who are the people closest to the work, the principals, their voices were weighed very seriously in what we considered as we move forward. But ultimately, we needed to look at it from a district position as well in our recommendations to the board. So again, we reduced our budget, and we're reducing our budget by $7.6 million, and it has not been easy. We recognize that no matter what is reduced, it will have negative impacts on our students, negative impacts on our staff, and negative impacts on our families. None of the reductions are things that we want to do, but they represent that what we, from an administrative perspective at least, at this point, agree that are seen as what I say sometimes are the least worst options. It's hard to talk about reductions in services for children as being good options. It's really about what is the least worst option that we can bring forward given our financial realities. I would say that at this point, if there are any decisions to add FTE back into the budget for various things, I would highly recommend that at this point we take it out of our assigned fund balance for next year, as opposed to trying to seek other staffing reductions, because the displacement notifications and things of that nature, they've already gone out. And so finding other people or positions to reduce at this point, I think would be too challenging on the system. And so if we are looking at adding anything back for anything in particular, I would suggest that we take it out of assigned fund balance and then find additional reductions in the coming year. That would mean that we will potentially miss our target for what we hoped with the 7.6 million. We would miss it by a bit depending on what was added, but that is what we as a team would recommend if we're going from there. I know that there's been thoughts about other things that could be reduced, and it's hard sometimes because of the point at where we're at. It's approaching the end of April, so I think that's where we're at with staffing reductions or staffing displacement at this point. And as I mentioned, both media specialists and middle school supports were recommended as part of the comprehensive budget reduction plan. And those were both things that were reduced completely prior to me being here. I know that there was some statements about how we reduced it after COVID, but actually those reduction, and I'm not trying to blame previous administrations or previous people in budget decision making, but those were reduced prior to us being here, and then we added them back because we had additional COVID money during that time. And we hoped, of course, that we would be able to continue maintaining those, but at this point they were identified but then modified, as I mentioned. So we added some back based on input. But what does it look like? And we heard about it to some degree, but basically the district is planning to shift from a co-teaching model where we have 2 certified teachers in each class period. It's an expensive model, and sometimes people have said it does create some confusion sometimes for staff and students. The end result would be that there will be 1 music instructor for each class period, which then would provide potentially more cohesive instruction. That was something that was put together through the curriculum department. Then we would have music lessons. We would still have support for music lessons. It would be about half of the FTE that we have currently, but that would be both for some team teaching within the classroom, but also for some pullout of individual or group lessons. And Director Larva can also share in additional detail if need be. We did ask our middle school principals if they were available, but they had family commitment, so we can speak on behalf of that. We're also seeking community partnership. So we're seeking to have additional partnership with community and thinking about how we can better support the students, given the reductions that we have. But that is our recommendation at this point. The programming, as I mentioned, will have each band and orchestra class will have a designated teacher of record responsible for the instruction and management of the class. And supplemental teacher support would be through a combination of in-class assistance, which would be push-in team teaching like. But then there would also be quite a bit of pull-out and small group or individual lessons. Now, when I say quite a bit, what I meant is that there would be, we can't guarantee that this is going to be anywhere near what we have for the team teaching we have now. It's admittedly, it's a significant reduction in support. But that we would hope to provide those pull-out lessons. We would provide those pull-out lessons for individual and small group. So that is kind of where let me just go back one. So that is really where we are with what we've proposed and what we're looking at doing and what we've done related to our displacements at this point. But if we were making any changes, we would need to consider that, but it would be too late to look at reductions in other staff to make that happen. We would have to look through other efficiencies. I think that would be something that we'd need to consider at that point. As far as other topics, legislative updates. We continue to lobby very hard for additional funding. We're looking for funding increases in a variety of areas, including funding for our Duluth Promise efforts, as well as our special education funding anomaly, which would put money back into the general accounts. We also, there are a lot of question marks related to both state and federal funding right now, and that's part of the reason why, even though we're doing very painful reduction and belt tightening, it's partly because we want to make sure that we're prepared in case of difficult or even more difficult times. When we hear things, people talking about eliminating funding for Head Start and eliminating, doing things as far as significant impact in title budgets and things of that nature, we need to see, too, what does that entail. We also recognize, related to pension reform, that's a new topic that we haven't talked a lot with the board, but it's a emerging significant statewide issue. There's a rule called the Rule of 90, which is basically a combination of somebody working 30 years and reaching the age of 60, at which time they can retire with very significant their pension at that time is fully funded and it's very robust. What we're seeing now is the people that graduated from college with 4-year degree and started in teaching, that group is reaching the end of their ability to use the Rule of 90. So other people who have graduated after people who started in education 30 years ago will not be able to take advantage of some of those pieces. And so basically, they will not want to retire. They might want to retire, but they might not be able to choose retirement because the finances of it will not be locked in place until later because of Social Security and things of that nature. So basically, and I can go into it in greater detail at the board's interest, but basically we'll end up hanging on to more experienced teachers later into their career, which is a positive, but it also means that those teachers, oftentimes the salary might be $30,000 more than somebody who's starting, and so teachers are going to, or school districts are going to accumulate large numbers of very experienced and fortunately for them, hard for us, costly teachers. And so the Duluth Education Minnesota and our Duluth Federation of Teachers, they are very much in favor of pension reform, and we've worked together with with the DFT to sign a joint letter related to pension reform, and so we're going to be continuing to lobby on those efforts as well. So those are some of our legislative updates. And just wanted to say if there's any questions or comments, feel free to ask.
Member Sadowski?
I am just curious to learn more about the community partnerships aspect that you mentioned. I'm wondering about maybe different community partners that you've reached out to. Also wondering, who would have capacity to do that in a strong way.
And actually, Director Larva, if you could come up and share as well. So basically, we have started some of the conversations related to the partnerships, and we've done some very light initial conversations and had a meeting on Friday, but there's certainly a lot left to do. But if you could address that, Director Larva.
Yeah. The mics seem really low, but bring it closer to your mouth. There we go. Pull it.
Testing 1, 2.
Sure, I'm taking the mic away from John. Yes, we just recently have started having some conversations with a couple of community members that had reached out to us. Some of the concerns were not just about middle school, but overall partnering even down at the elementary level. And so, we just started having the conversations. We started talking about potentially offering some artist in residencies or different ways that we can maybe do some grant funding to try to even reach out a little bit and get some beginning stages, even down to elementary. One of the things that we also talked about is that we have a curriculum committee. Well, we have curriculum committees set up for our content areas. And so I've already spoken with our curriculum coordinator about reaching out to our content specialists at the elementary level and at the secondary level. So the lift doesn't necessarily need to be on a person, Member Sadowski. It could be on a committee, which is a shared kind of lift. So the elementary music or the secondary music committee could start establishing more partnerships. We do often try to reach out to communities when we're doing curriculum adoptions. It's part of our process in our handbook about curriculum adoptions. So we do want representation from the experts that are in science, the experts in social, the experts in music. And so just having that partnership even at that curricular level committee when we're meeting 4 times a year would be a starting point. And so we did have a conversation around making sure that that's actually happening.
Thank you.
I think, no, you can keep that. You can stay here. You can stay here as long as, yeah, thanks. No, but I also wanted to point out that in meeting with some of our stakeholders in the community, they talked about how it wasn't really foreseen how the impacts would happen if the referendum didn't pass. Of course, they knew that there would be impact, but I think a lot of people saw it as just a technology referendum, even though during many of our meetings, we did talk about how if the technology referendum passed, that would save about $2 million per year out of our general budget that we would need to cut if we didn't, or reduce by if we didn't pass the referendum. So I think from that conversation, there was also a thought about if we have another referendum cycle, what could it look like to have more robust support for music? How could we rebuild and build back better in many ways with our music programming and arts programming, because it's something that the community definitely feels strongly about. So that was something that we talked about.
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Yep, thank you. Thanks for that question, Member Sadowski. I had asked that a few weeks back about when the idea of partnerships were being floated, and I know partnerships take time. Grant writing takes time, and so, if that's the route we're going to go, then we need to put a lot of energy into it right away. I guess I have a question about registration at the middle school and high school for next year. Do we have registration numbers for our music programs at the middle school and high school? And a second part to that question is, are there other classes that the numbers were so low we're not offering, maybe elective classes that there might be some money from as well?
So it's an interesting balancing act at the middle school. Kids don't have electives per se. I mean, there's some classes that they have choice in, but when you think about like our arts standard, they have more that they are required to choose from, and so those are some of our things. So kids have to be in something. There's no study halls at the middle school. We have to have FTE to cover all the kids everywhere. That being said, we have had more students this year choosing music over instead of maybe visual arts or media arts. So it's just a balancing act, you know, of where the kids' interests are at that given moment. So we know when we were making those reductions, we were basing it off of current year numbers of courses that are being offered, the FTE. We actually are going to be having to add more at Ordine East just due to student registration numbers as well. So that just is kind of a balance that happens every year. So it just depends upon how many kids are interested in one of their classes over another. I have not heard of any impacts at the high school with music. I have not been updated or anything on that, so.
So at least at Ordine, we have a strong interest in music from our students. And we know that when they start out in 6th grade and 7th grade, they're likely to stay in music if they have a good experience. And our students and our families are saying they want music.
Yeah, and also just to be aware, when we were doing our middle school model, one of the questions that came up was how are we going to have music handled at 6th grade? You know, we could have just said it was an optional thing that kids could take, but we actually wanted to make that investment at 6th grade for performing music. So in 6th grade, they do have to choose between choir, band, and orchestra. We don't have general music offered at the 6th grade level. They can't take that opt out of performance music until they hit 7th and 8th grade.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
And then are you saying that at the high school level, that we don't have registration numbers yet to know if any classes have had to be dropped because the numbers were low?
We do have registration numbers, and I'm just not well versed in how it impacts in music right now. I do know of some other areas where we've had to have some shifts, but I'm not versed in where that stood with music. I hadn't heard anything that stood out. I mean, it's not on my radar, I guess I should say.
I hope we can get some information on that soon.
Yep, I can provide that for you if you
We
want.
sure can, and also the high schools did identify some of their reduction through elimination of small class sizes too, or not small class sizes, but small or low enrollment courses. And so I don't remember the total for the high schools, but there was several $100,000 that was looked at for reduction based on low class sizes. So I want to say $200,000 roughly.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so basically, the site's already looked at finding $200,000 and having that be part of meeting their target. The reason, they did have interest in going deeper there, but that would also impact, class size too. So if we have, right now we have for example, in most of our geometry classes, they're over 35 on average for our students. We were hesitant to want to reduce further there, even though sometimes students go on to the ALC or other places, because we wanted to make sure that, especially for those core classes, that we were avoiding running the rates up higher than 35 per teacher.
I would say that one area where we have seen some decline in registration would be in our world language area. There's some less interest in that, but we also are seeing that our ASL program is expand. I mean, there's a lot of interest in that ASL program for kids too. So again, a balancing act, but that is one of the areas where we are noticing that there's some decline in enrollment or registration.
Thank you, Member Lofeld.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, okay, so thank you, thanks. And thanks for the information and for clarification too. So as someone who's worked in the district and then have a daughter-in-law that's teaching music at Denfeld, I know that there's community partnerships already happening. Yes, we need to continue it. There needs to be more. Talking to even parents that were here tonight, there's some real renewed energy in, being committed to community partnerships, but we have many of them. We've had many of them for years, even when I was still in the classroom of arts organizations. We've had artists in residence. We had music specialists come in. We've had band pullouts where, a traveling band instructor has come for a week of work with our students. So there's some of that. Needs to be more, and if that's something as part of the journey to where we're going, I'm confident that we have community partners, and I'm more suggesting that there is a committee and that the need to continue to build partnerships isn't labored onto the current music teachers we have, that it is happening on the curriculum level and from other areas. But Yes, we do have grants being written, and we do have community partners, and I'm so appreciative of the teachers and the community that has supported that, but it needs to be more robust. I'm really interested in helping the new model of the FTEs we're appointing to middle school band and orchestra be allowed some flexibility in how they want to use their hours. If pull-out isn't working, and a pull-in can be more manageable, and you give the teachers in those positions the ability to work that 0.5 to what they feel their kids need, and it might be a little bit flexible until they see what their enrollment is and what the needs of the student is. And so I would hope that would be something that you could consider doing. And again, my other concern and caution to board members is that we have cuts in some significant areas, and we've heard from other community members and staff coming before us, and it is a very hard place to be in. We haven't been in this position as a board together for my tenure on the board, because shortly after I came on the board, we entered into COVID, and we were robust with some extra money, and I've always said in my heart of hearts, what we got during COVID is what we should have had the last 20-plus years that I've been in education. So there's just multiple reasons why we're at this budget cutting place, and it's painful, and I am appreciative of all of your dialogue and your questions and the information you can provide us. But there are other community groups that have come before us, and then there are some cuts we're making that the voices aren't coming here because their needs are significant, and their ability to come and share isn't as easy for them, and somewhat maybe the communication hasn't always trickled down to where they need to be. So I do caution us as we look at how we can potentially maybe use some extra money if we have some reduction in a position somewhere else. And again, I think I appreciate our CFO, Zunich, for always reminding us that we are able to make some shifts and some looking at different things, because at the state level and the federal level, we might not, we might not have the money we need for even some of our other programs we currently haven't taken to a reduction or a realignment. So those are just my overall comments. I'm really interested in staying communicative and asking good questions and listening to each other and being supportive of sometimes disagreement here as we work towards these decisions. So thank you.
And I just want to take a minute. I'm sorry, Member Loeffler-Kemp, if you had further questions, I was just in mode, so if the...
I'll bring them up where I can.
All right, my apologies, I didn't mean to do that. Next, I believe we have Member Sadowski.
Yeah, I just had a follow-up question for you, Director Larva, about you made a comment about getting experts in music involved in some of our decision-making. Is that what you kind of had mentioned with the artist in residency and the grants?
Yeah, using our community members as part of our committee, like being active members, would be able to help bring that expert point of view into it.
Right. I'm just curious have we used any experts in our community up until this point for some of the decisions some of the analysis of where we are today?
As far as with our budget reductions and reallocations, no, we did not.
Okay. And then, let's see, a lot to say here. I just wanted to Superintendent Magus, very appreciative of you bringing up the guiding change document. And Member Lofeld, for your words. These are very challenging times, and these are very hard decisions. And I also appreciated Superintendent Magus, you stating the least worst option. They're all bad options. So I appreciated you saying that. I also wanted to just say I have some concern about some of the language in this report, specifically around adding flexibility or potential flexibility in cohesive instruction, because that's just not what we're hearing from our experts in our music area. And these are really hard decisions. And so just my opinion, I think we need to call a spade, because it's going to take away flexibility and cohesion in the music program.
And maybe, I'm not sure if there's anything you wanted to add about where that, even though we should probably have worded it differently, is there anything that you wanted to say about why that was worded that way?
I guess when we're talking about the flexibility, we're talking about like being able to, as we're posting for our positions to help and support, that we would like to make sure that the people that are in these roles can work with the teacher of record and just be able to be like, if the supplemental teacher is more of an expert on maybe working with violinists, maybe they're leading something in that aspect, or, you know, just having that flexibility and being able to work through the professional learning communities and really targeting down to like what kids need to be pulled, what small groups might need to be pulled. So when I say like the flexibility, we don't want to get pigeonholed into something where we can't offer some flexibility there for them. And as far as the cohesion goes, I think there's just been some challenges with some of the, like you heard from some of the Orlean East community regarding some of the programs that have happened this year. And I know that sorry, my phone was ringing in my ear. So I know that our orchestra program, there were some challenges this year. We did have a teacher that retired, and so just trying to reestablish like who was the teacher this year was very important at some point in time. So when we talk about that, it was just really like who is the teacher of record, and maybe some of our language around co-teaching is more challenging when like who is actually the teacher in that course, and so we're trying to make sure that that's clearly established when we talk about the cohesion.
With that said, I do agree that sometimes you read something on paper, and then when you read it aloud, it sounds different than it did when it was in the statement, and I think that it would, sometimes things are unnecessarily inflammatory, and we didn't intend it that way. We were just trying to make sure that we shared that as well, but I agree. I also, when I talked about the reductions, actually, let me flip forward to, I talked about the reductions with schools on this slide right here, and I talked about how schools and principals made budget reduction decisions, but we also had very significant departmental reductions as well. So at district office, we actually reduced by a significantly larger percentage than we asked our sites to reduce by, because we wanted to make sure that we were trying to a degree to shield our classrooms and our schools from that. So we took larger reduction at district level through our senior leadership team, but basically our senior leaders worked with their departments, listened to the department leads, took input, and then work to create those reductions as well. So I didn't want the public, or I know the board knows that happened, but I didn't want the public to think that all of the reductions were coming out of the school sites, that it's also departmental reductions that were more significant in percentage than we're asking of the schools too. But again, everything has negative impact. Like, it's easy to say what happens in the schools, that matters most. It's true. But then if we don't have enough bus drivers to get the kids to school, or we don't have enough human resources staff to make sure that we're processing things quickly enough so that we have our best teachers, or things of that nature, or if we're making reductions in curriculum support, those have impact too. So we did make a larger reduction in those areas, but certainly any reduction is hard to make.
Member Micahville?
Thank you for that reminder, Superintendent Magus. And Member Lofald, your points are very well taken, and I think we all recognize that reductions and reallocations is very difficult. And, you know, depending on who's in front of us or who's filling our email inboxes or our voicemail, you know, it tugs on everyone's heartstrings when you recognize the real impacts that some of these cuts are going to end up making. And so I feel personally that our board is very cognizant of that responsibility and trying very hard to try to reduce as much of the bad impact as possible for as many of our students. So wanting to put that out there. I'm a parent of students who both had the co-teaching model and then also had experience without that co-teaching model before it got reinstated after COVID. And the differences were stark in the education that my children received. And so I recognize that, and I wanted to share that as I come to some of these conversations. New information for me today was, you know, the potential or possibility, if necessary, to keep any position. Tonight we're talking about co-teachers and our lessons for music, of dipping into some different fund balances. And I was wondering if I could get some more information on which fund balances we're talking about, because I thought I saw on paper unassigned, but I hear you saying assigned, and I just don't know if it's my ears. But then also what impacts that has on our policy, on where our fund balances need to be sitting, like per our school district policies, and if someone could provide some more information so I have a better understanding of that.
And I'll have Simone speak to that in just a minute, but so basically, many districts, ours included, is making a course correction in what we spend each year. And so we identified that we wanted to and felt we needed to reduce by $7.6 million over the course of the next 2 years, so that we weren't, to create like a household analogy, we're now earning less. So our what we have for, not earning less, but we have less disposable income, so we're having to make budget reductions in what we have in our household budget. We do have savings, which is our unassigned fund balance, but if we start using that savings, which we are already using that savings, we set ourselves as a target saying we're only going to use this amount of savings, then we're going to have course correction. So if we don't course correct completely, that means that we need to spend out of that unassigned fund balance to make up for what we haven't cut. So if, so to speak, if we don't get rid of cable, we're going to have to take out of our savings account to pay for the cable. I know that's not the same as a human in a position, but that's sort of a household budgeting analogy that I would make more for the public's benefit than for you as a board member, but Director Zunich can probably explain more eloquently than me.
Good evening. The board policy is that we maintain an 8% fund balance. We ended up last year after the audit at 10.71. So we are still above our fund balance amount. And we have what we call the assigned fund balance. So those are funds that the board has given us permission to basically set aside for savings. Last year, the board gave us permission to use up to $5 million last year to balance the budget, and up to $5 million this year to balance the budget. I hope we don't come in that much. I hope it comes in lower. And then we have what we call the unassigned general fund balance. So we have money set aside in there, and it's all on our UFAR's comparison table, so it's out there for everyone to see. So that is what Superintendent Magus was referring to. It's basically our general fund. So what, if the administrative team decides to not reduce any further, it would simply come out of our general fund.
Follow up? And so if we were to take the amount that we're looking for in this conversation right now, where would that put our percentage of our unassigned fund balance then?
Yes, please.
It would depend on what the FTE is. If it's one FTE, we have an average amount that we use for a certified instructor. With salary and benefits, averages out at $100,000 for a certified person. So if they kept one, that would be that amount. If it's two, it'd be $200,000. There is money in the unassigned fund balance available there.
And so while we're having additional conversation, I'm sure you could look at what the unassigned fund balance is and figure, like, let's just say $200,000, because that would be two positions. It might be a little less than that, but if you could look at that impact. But I think when we say our policy is not to go below 8%, being at 10 plus a little bit, that's getting close, and we've spent down quite a bit. And then we also have, a variety of upcoming things that are uncertain. And so that's part of the reason why we've tried to make a more serious course correction with the 7.6 million, which brings us to 10.6?
Yes.
So to 10.6. So we could let's just say it brings it down to 10.5. That's still above our 8%, so that is something that would be workable, but it's also, I think several board members have also expressed concern that we have to be careful about continuing to say yes and make modification in too many things, because, we heard about music, but we also heard about library media specialists. We also heard about special education needs. So all of that together would probably be $500,000 or more at least. And so we have to think about, like, what does it mean to add back or change if we were to make some of those changes. But actually, Executive Director severance, we've started down the road of the displacements. The displacements have been made. They've been based on the plans that we brought forward. That happened weeks and weeks ago, and so it would be very challenging for us contractually at this point to identify additional positions that we would reduce by. So we would either need to take it out of the unassigned fund balance, or we would need to cut spending in other ways to make that happen. And so that's kind of something that I would suggest that we don't try to make that decision quickly, but that we would temporarily use that savings of the unassigned fund balance so that we could make thoughtful decisions over the coming months if we were identifying in that area.
Superintendent Meigs, may I answer one more
Sure.
thing as well? It would reduce the unassigned fund balance by roughly 18%.
200,000 would reduce it by 18%?
Yes. So we're at. I'm using the unassigned fund balance, not the assigned.
Somebody get her a whiteboard so we can do the math quick, the arithmetic. No.
I was an English major, so I defer to Executive Director Zunich.
These are incredibly difficult conversations to have, and I would just echo what Member Lofald said when she said, talking about COVID, is that was the time that we actually had access to the money that our public school students deserve and have been promised to us on numerous occasions by many, many, many different politicians over the year, both at the federal, the state, and the local level. If we could just get our federal and state partners to live up to their promise to fully fund special education, we would not be in this position. And I think that's something that we all need to sit with for a minute. These are not decisions or reductions that anybody is interested in thinking about pulling lessons away from our middle school music. I think about Lincoln Park and Denfeld, and I think about what it means for those schools to have access to that sort of one-on-one and personalized instruction to give those kids. That's exactly what they deserve. But as we look
for the budgetary constraints that we're going to be talking about for the next 5 to possibly 7 years. We've all looked at the projections. We know what our deficits are going to look like in 5 to 6 to 7 years, and they don't get any better. We are all balancing incredibly difficult decisions having to do with access to our students in middle school to music, which is important. Not just because they learn to play an instrument, but also we listened to a parent tonight talk about how it helped her child track. When she tracked music, it helped her learn how to track in reading. We all know these incredible fundamental skills that kids learn from music. We are also talking about sitting down and greatly reducing Check and Connect that has data that demonstrates to us that kids do better when they have Check and Connect mentors. We want to get upstream of some of these things, and that Check and Connect in middle school is very important as well. Those are conversations we're all having. We listen to conversations about special education. This is not decisions that anybody sitting in this table wants to make. They're terrible to make. They're least best options. But we have to figure out how to forge a path forward together, and I think that that's something that we all have done very well. Every member of this school board, the administration, to talk about the realities of what our budget reductions are going to look like for the next 5 years, and to see our community come out and know that we have that great support for music and music education. That is something that we can use to build on with our community, and collectively together with everybody who is sitting here tonight, listening to the Sterling Strings and listening to this, to our parents, we can forge a path forward. It might not look like what we want it to, but I think with the energy and the commitment that we see from the board members sitting at this table, that's something that's important to us. So it might not look like we want it to right now, but I have faith that it will get to where we want it to do. And the next time we engage with our public, when we talk about school funding, this is a great example to talk to them about what it means when schools have to make reductions. So I want to thank each and every one of you sitting at this table for the hard work and the difficult decisions that we've had to make. And I want to thank our team, our administrative team as well. So thank you all very much. Do we have any other questions or comments now that I'm done bloviating? Great, thank you. Thank you.
Can I?
Yes,
remembered
please,
it.
Member
I
LaFleur.
remembered it. I actually want to thank Superintendent Magus. I know we went down this journey of listening to our CFO and the 8% and the 10.71%, and it was a great question, Member Mike Sell, and I hope maybe we can talk more about it in our smaller groups as we journey. But I think that I appreciate Superintendent Magus. He knows, he talks to all of us, you know, and we reach out to him with our questions and our concerns and our fears and our hopes. And so I think when he said, you know, we could go into some other funding of assigned or unassigned, there's a little bit of stuff left there. And I appreciate that he gave us that, but in a way, he wants, he values our input. He knows we're struggling with this. So I think he gives us a little bit like, if you want to, we can kind of dip a little bit into that monies. But if we look at our 5-year projection, which we've all looked at as well, it's really slim. And then when you look at the uncertainty of the state and federal funding, and we might not even know what our full funding is until next year. This legislature might be coming back to finish a session that they can't finish right now. So there's just so much uncertainty that I appreciate Superintendent Magus allowing us to think about what that would look like if we just had to. But then we've put ourselves in a position of which one of these sessions that had a ton of our community coming and asking, whether it's, you know, library, or whether it's Check and Connect, or whether it's special education, or whether it's other areas. I just still caution us to keep moving forward, asking good questions, and we'll get there. But thank you.
Thank you. And I want to acknowledge that Executive Director Zunich was correct. Trust the CFO over an English major.
She knows her arithmetic. Do we have any other questions? All right, thank you for the superintendent's report. Then we have our schedule of meetings and events that you can find on Board Book as well. Let me blow this bad boy up here. Next week, we did have a scheduled school board work session, but we are looking at some different times for that to do some work as a school board. And then starting the week of May 5th through the 9th, we start our cycle again with our monthly committee of the whole. Wednesday, we have our American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, also our Johnson O'Malley Committee. Then on Thursday, we both have the Parent Advisory Committee for Special Ed and Head Start Parent Policy Council. So thank you to all our school board reps to those committees. Now we will move on to reports of our standing committee, and I'd like to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds to talk about our very robust and lengthy committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you, Chair Eater. It was a robust, full agenda, and I appreciate all of the presenters for all of their hard work and getting things ready for the meetings. The first presentation was provided by myself as well as Sheila White, our coordinator for the American Indian Education Department. We provided some information and a resolution for the American Indian Advisory Committee's vote of non-concurrence and the resolution that was issued on February 25th. State statute requires that the board respond within 60 days. So there was a lot of dialogue related to the recommendations that were provided from our APAC. I want to thank this board for the lengthy discussion, the thorough discussion regarding our APAC's recommendation. I truly believe it demonstrates to them that we are truly taking their recommendations very seriously. So I want to thank you for the amount of time you took to really consider the recommendations. I want to thank the team also for developing a response to what the district would do to address some of the recommendations that were presented by our APAC, so thank you. So the second presentation that was provided by Jennifer Wellnitz, as well as Tom Tuskin, the principal of Denfeld High School. They provided a status report for the BAR program, the update for the school board and district administration on the BAR program that is being provided at Denfeld regarding the innovations and interventions that have been created and that are data-based decisions. And so information was provided regarding the programming that really supports students and allow them to be successful as learners. Sherry Williams, our Head Start director, provided a presentation related to the Duluth Head Start annual approvals. The board received several documents to review and sign off on. It was related to the self-assessment report, the transportation waiver, as well as the FY26 Federal Head Start grant information. Our very own superintendent provided some information also related to the Duluth Promise. The Duluth Promise represents a robust collaboration between multiple educational and workforce development entities. And it's something that the community has heard about before. So thank you, Superintendent, for that presentation. And of course, our very own Simone Zunisch, the Executive Director for Business Services, provided a presentation regarding the FY26 budget timeline and impact overview. That concluded our COW agenda.
Do we have any questions or comments about the COW meeting? Looks good. Okay, thank you, Assistant Superintendent Bonds. I'd like to move on next and turn it over to Chair of the HR Business Services Committee, Chair Sadowski, to give a synopsis of that meeting.
Yep, we had a very robust meeting on Monday, April 14th, so I believe that was last Monday. And as per last month, I'm just going to kind of go over some of the categories on our table of contents, if you will, of what we talk about, but I would encourage everyone to visit our YouTube channel and listen to the meeting because we really go into all of the materials in here in depth, and it is a lot. We had a large packet this time, but we cover our human resources report, business services, which includes enrollment, child nutrition, facilities, health and safety, technology, and transportation. We look over our recommended resolutions, and then we look at our consent agenda, which has our HR staffing report. This time we had job descriptions that I'll talk about in a little bit. We have our bids, RFPs, and quotes in our financial report. And then we have contracts, change orders, and leases. And then at the end, there's some miscellaneous information items, including our expenditure contracts, no-cost contracts, revenue contracts, grant applications. And this time we had our mod rating as well, which I'll talk about. So I just am going to highlight a few of the things that we kind of talked about at that meeting. And then if anyone has any questions, we can open it up for discussion. For our human resources report, we have new health insurance renewal rates that have been received, and it was only an increase of 5.6, so that was good to see. The DWEA contract has settled, and negotiations for the 25-27 contracts are being scheduled for Duluth Principals Association, our AFSCME paraprofessionals, the food service, and the integration specialists. Under child nutrition, we are renewing our Upper Lakes food bid, and I wanted to just highlight that there's a 10% increase there. So when we look at our budget and all of the things, you know, we're not getting a 10% increase from the state or the federal government or anyone. So it's tough, and inflation is real, and I know many different organizations deal with that, but I wanted to highlight that because that was a pretty stark increase. We also started a meal contract with the Kids College Daycare Center, and that you will find under our revenue contracts, which is always nice to see. So we're going to be providing them with some meals. And then total to date, we've served 1,012,967 total meals and snacks so far this year. Under the facilities report, I wanted to highlight that we're working on getting all the bids completed and reviewed for summer projects. So that work is happening. Summer's going to come quick. And our team is working really hard to make sure that we are set to do all that work on our schools when our students are out. Under the transportation report, I thought it was, I don't know, kind of illustrative of where we are in our society right now, but the lead mechanic pre-ordered bus parts that are commonly needed ahead of tariffs to save money in the future, which I thought was very smart. And a side note, in my day job, I put in an order for some furnishings, and they already had a tariff surcharge. So I think this is really smart. I thought of this, our HR business report, when I saw that tariff surcharge already on there. Let's see. Resolutions. So for our resolutions, we had donations to Duluth Public Schools and then grants. And then the two job descriptions I wanted to highlight that are on there are for the Director of Technology and the District Community Ed Director. And hopefully you saw some emails that were shared more information about that today, but I think the Director of Technology is a combined position, so that'll save funds from what I understand. But if you have any questions, we can open it up towards the end. And then wanted to highlight, I always highlight our finance report because that's a big part of what we do. I just wanted to share that if you look at that page on the top for the General Fund 1, you will see the increase that I mentioned last month reflected in our budget now. So last month you saw that we were going to add in the 32 ADM, the St. Louis tax, TIF money, and then some special ed funding, and that is reflected in the budget right now. And then under expenditure contracts, we had many facilities contracts. I read through them all. It took a long time. A lot of them, I was talking to Director Severance. These are time and materials contracts. So we sign contracts so that we can have them kind of on call if we need them. That's how I understood it. Is that correct? So there were a lot in there, but these are contracts that we sign every year, every couple years, just to make sure that we have people on call when we need them. And then member banks had a good highlight at our meeting that I wanted to highlight here. Under one of the expenditure contracts was for a contractor that's going to strategize and plan events that align with the objectives of the district affinity groups. So I appreciated Member Banks bringing that up and pointing that out. It's a smaller one, but really important work for that. And then the last item in our, in this committee was the experience modification factor, the mod rating, and that was a very good rating. So do we have any other additional questions or information that we want to share? Member Lofalt, or I mean, Member Lafferkamp, sorry.
Thanks. Great update as always, Member Sadowski. I just wondered did you discuss any in the enrollment report on kindergarten meet and greets and what our numbers were looking for? Because I think most of those happened the end of March, didn't they?
That's a good question. We didn't talk about the kindergarten meet and greets at all, but our enrollment has been trending up all year, which is why we were able to add that 32 ADM onto our budget. And so even though enrollment starts to decline this time of year because of graduations and things like that, we're still above, but maybe Superintendent Magus or someone would have some information on that.
The enrollment team met today. We're just finalizing all of that. Assistant Superintendent Bonds was with us as well. I can provide that at our next meeting, but the enrollment team was able to attend those, and I think it was well received. It was a big help, well received by the principals and the clerical staff. So I can't give you an exact number yet, but I will.
Okay, great. I mean, I heard a lot of good things from parents or potential parents on the meet and greets, and so I just know we generally have some ballpark numbers, and that'll be good to get an update on. And then also on the child nutrition report, I was just, you reviewed in there some of the sites for our summer meal programs, and are those definite sites that were listed in the report? Or it says applied to be a sponsor for summer meal programs at approved sites. So are these sites definite, or are we waiting to find out?
Sheila Oak has not told me yet that they've been finally approved, but I would say that's probably going to be correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. It's a large number of sites across the district, but I think those were my two main questions for now.
Sounds good. Little follow-up on enrollment, though. We have been doing that enrollment campaign, and Superintendent Magus, I think you mentioned at our HR Business Services meeting that we have seen, success from that, enrollments.
Yes,
Based
and
on
that, thinking about, I mean, there are many things that go through my head. One of the things that we talked about, thankfully, sorry, it's been a little bit of a long day. But during some of our input sessions, one of the things that our teachers brought up and we agreed with was that we really could do more related to enrollment campaign efforts. So we worked with School Mint, and we have a new contract with them, but we've already more than paid for that contract with new enrollees. And actually, Ms. Wellens was here earlier, but you've probably seen a lot of new video, new media on social media related to different things that we're enhancing. That's part of our enrollment campaign, and that has really resulted in quite a few more students coming. We have about 75 additional students coming into Lincoln Park, for instance, than we had last year, and we're seeing a lot of enrollment from some of our private schools and charter schools in the area. And so I think a lot of students are really seeing and recognizing what we're doing here in Duluth Public Schools. And I think it's important for us to get those good stories out there, get the good message out there about what we're doing, because sometimes it's when we're, like many other districts around the state, communicating about budget reductions and hard times, it's important to see what we're doing well as well.
Thank you.
I had one other, I couldn't find it in the update, and I don't know if it was in your update, Superintendent Magus, but about the lead testing grant. Can you just highlight that? Because I was really excited that we received a grant to do that.
Well, is it in the grant?
I can't remember
It's under
where I
this,
read
it should be under the safety component, I
Okay,
believe.
okay. I was trying to find it in here, but,
Yes. Lexi, our safety person, did apply and received the lead water testing grant. I don't have the specifics in front of me for what that entails and how many sites that will cover, but I can certainly send that to you.
yeah, that would be great to have that. That's just been a concern that we've watched over the years, not only, with our school buildings, but here as a community, so, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Lowfall.
I just want to echo Member Lafleur-Kemp too. I really appreciate your finance reports and HR. You have learned well from our former HR business
Had
chair.
a good role model.
But, and one of the things I think it's more for our public and for those that have lasted through the whole meeting. I'm so appreciative that we serve on different committees, and so in a little bit, you're going to hear from the policy, and that's Member Mike Sell, Member Lafleur-Kemp, and myself, and with Member Zadowski, her team is Member Zadowski, Member Banks, and Member Williams, yeah. I was just going to say Stephanie, but yeah. And so their input and their ability to really drill into all of these different agenda items means that I watch the meetings, they're on YouTube, and I listen and I follow along, and I know that the HR business report was so long this month, we couldn't load it back up. We couldn't load the whole thing back into the board book for tonight's meeting. I could go back and get it for your meeting, but because there was like 271 pages of financial and HR business. So I appreciate the hard work that our committees do. And that's just a reminder to our community that we rely on our board members to do really a lot of hard work, and they're experts in a lot of the areas that they serve on the committee for. And so I'm going to admit that I have just a question about under 5E for FY26. What is the experience modification factor? I don't even remember hearing it when I was listening to the HR business, the very last item on 5. Maybe someone can help you.
The experience modification rating is a factor that's used in workers' comp insurance to adjust premiums based on claims history. But if we have anything else to add, that'd be great. Okay.
Good. Okay, thank you.
If there are no other questions or comments, then that can end our report.
Thank you, Member Sadowski. Now we'll move on to our policy committee, and chair of that committee is Member Lafleur-Kemp. So Chair Lafleur-Kemp.
Thank you, and thank you, Member Lofold, for reminding folks about the committee work that happens, and that all of it is on YouTube, so you can go back and learn more about the extended discussions that we have at the committee level. So we met for our policy committee on Tuesday, April 15th, and the next policy committee is May 13th, just to put it on your calendar. And we had a policy for first reading, policy 413, prohibiting harassment and violence. And this policy, we are going to be deleting the current policy 413, and we're adopting the NSBA model policy. So the deletion means we're just adopting it into this new policy. And deleting 413, yeah. So I'm going to read the purpose, as I always do, of the policy, and this purpose is, the purpose of this policy is to maintain a learning and working environment free from harassment and violence on the basis of race, color, creed, religion, national origin, sex, age, marital status, familial status, status with regard to public assistance, sexual orientation, or disability, and these are protective class statuses. And so, again, like all of the policies, it goes into a general statement of the policies, definitions, in this case, reporting procedures, the In our district, the designee, Teresa Severance, our Executive Director of Human Resources and Operations, is our school district human rights officer, so she would receive reports or complaints of harassment or violence prohibited by this policy. So it highlights kind of who takes it in at the district level. It highlights the investigation procedures, school district action, and it goes on. And then at the end, it does highlight the dissemination of policy and training. So this policy shall appear in the student handbook, this policy shall be reviewed at least annually for compliance with state and federal law. And I just want to highlight again, the legal and cross-references are always at the back of the policy. And with this one in particular, I want to highlight this falls with the Minnesota Human Rights Act with the revisions in that act from 2023. So that is our policy for first reading. It will, we had a lot of really good discussion on that. And then the next policy for our second reading was 525, violence prevention. And, reading the right one, let me see here. Yeah, and so, I had this in a different order, so, excuse me. There you go. So, and this is actually our third reading of this policy. You might remember in our policy meeting, and when we brought it forward, the last two readings, we wanted more time to work on it, so we brought it forward for a third time rather than the typical two readings. But 525, again, the purpose of this policy is, this policy acknowledges that violence is a critical issue for schools to address. The Duluth School District will establish and implement measures to ensure a safe and disruptive-free learning environment for all students and staff. The school board is committed to promoting healthy human relationships and learning environments that are physically and psychologically safe for all members of the school community. It further believes that students are the first priority and they should be protected from physical or emotional harm doing school activities and on school grounds, buses, or field trips while under school district supervision. And again, it goes through some of the changes that we made to this policy are highlighted in yellow. And then again, we did add, I just wanted to point out, it highlights the implementation of the policy. It highlights prevention strategies, which we have been doing many. And then at the end of the prevention strategies, T was added to promote the safe storage of guns in accordance with the school board resolution for the safe storage of weapons. So we added that. And then under student support, one of the things we added under D was students will be informed of resources for violence prevention, restorative practices, relationship skills, and proper reporting. And then again, just highlights the legal and cross-references from state statutes. So this is the second reading we're bringing forward to pass. And then the last item, it initially was for review, but we are bringing it forward for, that's where I was looking at two different things, I apologize. So 770, the bidding process is for first reading. It was initially for review, and we're renumbering it to 726. And we had a lot of really great discussion on this. Thank you for all your information as we were learning more about the bidding process while we were reviewing this policy. But the purpose is bids, RFPs, and quotes are obtained to ensure fair competition and transparency in the procurement process. Suppliers and/or contractors are invited to submit bids or proposals meeting predetermined specifications. This allows for evaluation of pricing and criteria to select the most suitable vendor. And then there's many pieces to this first reading, and as I said, a lot of good information and questions, and so we moved it to a first reading. It'll come back in our policy committee And then the board will have another chance to look at it rather than it just being reviewed one time. And then the last item in our committee was more informational, and it was policy 413, which was the harassment complaint, the regulation, I'm sorry, the harassment complaint form. And we had some discussion on that, and I don't know if the changes were made from our discussion. We talked about changing the, kind of the title of it, and then adding familial. And did that get changed? I didn't see that in the. Yeah.
It's because we didn't get the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So because it was informational, and then it goes with the policy that 413, which just went through its first reading. So it has another opportunity to come back. So that was, that'll come back, and then that was all. So it's a good meeting, a lot of good information, a lot of good questions, and our next policy meeting is May 13th. Thank you. Any questions?
I just wanted, more of a comment, just wanted to say that I really appreciate you adding in the letter T to the policy 525 for the promotion of safe storage of guns. Yeah, I think that's really important, and I just wanted to thank the committee for all their work on the policies, and then, of course, Board Secretary Paquette for all her work as our kind of a keeper of policies, so thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, I had a quick question on the first reading as we look at the prohibiting harassment and violence. I just noticed on here, and I'm assuming it's because we have harassment and violence based on gender identity is probably in one of our other, let me start over, let me use my words, I'm struggling right now. Policy 413, as I read through it, it's very specific in talking about many protected classes, and gender identity or gender expression is not included in this policy. Is that because we have those protections built in different policies?
Well, that was talked about, and one of the things that was highlighted is within the policy, gender identity is go to definitions, 3, and then go all the way to number 6, where it says sexual orientation means to whom someone is or is perceived as being emotional, physically, or sexually attracted to based on sex or gender identity. And then it goes on to highlight a person may be attracted to men, women, both, neither, or to people who are genderqueer, androgynous, or have other gender identities. So it was kind of covered there. So we did raise that question with NSBA.
Thank you, Rosie. And then I was just curious on the harassment complaint form. On that form under, let me just blow this up, under when it says type of complaint and then protected group, on there it does have where you can check gender identity or expression. So does that matter if that is somewhere you can check in the complaint form, but it's not totally explicit in the policy? Does that matter, do you think?
I think we talked about this.
Yes, we
Jason's
did.
back there.
So I just need to go back, because I might have missed it, so I should just go back and watch the meeting then, does that?
Well, we were at the meeting. I thought we had that referred to, or maybe,
In that second reading, we can look into that and dig into that a little bit more
Okay.
as well.
well, this isn't the third, okay.
Yeah,
So
and
this
then-
isn't the
Yeah,
one
the
that
first
Jason,
reading.
I got you.
Got it. Okay, those are just my questions, and then just because this is the pool in which I swim a lot. If you have harassment based on sex, that can go through a Title IX complaint process depending on severity. So if we have somebody who submits this form and says that I've been harassed based on my sex, how do we know that that doesn't leak into the Title IX versus just here. So that would just be something I would think about for the second reading. Thank you. I appreciate all your work on this. Thank you.
I don't know if there's anything you'd want to add, Teresa.
The Title IX, so when we get the complaint forms, we do look for that. The Title IX is handled by Anthony and Assistant Superintendent Bonds. And we both get those complaints and work through that. So thank you for pointing it out.
That
and it's
answers
a
it.
good
That's perfect.
portion that we probably should include there.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you.
And then I just have one. I just want to piggyback off of Member Zadowski and know that as a committee, we brought forth that T condition about putting into this policy that one of the ways to work through the strategies for violence prevention is, for safe gun storage. So my question to the staff is just to make sure that, I know when we first brought that resolution forward a few years ago, there were brochures, it was going home, or it was being communicated with our schools. But I don't know if that's happening every year in August when they're mailing out all of the beginning school information. That's where it was 2 years ago. Is that still the process that we're using, and can we make sure that that is still being done? Do we still have the brochures that we created and all of that? Just you don't have to answer it tonight, but just a reminder that we really want to make sure that that's a part of our back-to-school program, like we started it 2 years ago.
It's my understanding that it is, but we can verify that. So that's been our expectation. That's been our expectation. Sometimes, occasionally, things will deviate from expectation over time, but we need to make sure that it's.
And sometimes we just have staff turnover in our offices within our schools, and so sometimes those little things, if it's something, it's a fairly new request on the part of the leadership and the school board to make sure that that is always going out in our back-to-school packet. So just wanted to check in.
And I actually think we had talked about doing it more than once, knowing that in the fall of the year, there might be different families in the winter of the year and students. So not just having it be a once a year in the back-to-school packet. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Member Sadowski?
I was just going to say, I do remember getting communication about it this last year, but the years do blend together. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And we're lucky to have multiple ways to communicate this information because of the great, the app that we have now and just different ways of communicating. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Chair Loeffler-Kemp. Now we have some time for some general board committee updates. Many of our members of our school board committee serve on other committees as liaisons between the school board and other committees throughout the district. So this is a time where we like to hear from our school board members about anything they'd like to share with us and the public. Member Lofeld.
Yeah, I even went so far as to write him down before I came because I looked through my calendar to see what it was, and now I can't find that piece of paper of what I wrote it down. I know that Member Loeffler-Kemp and I went down in the last part of March, I think it was March 24th, to a day at the Capitol. And as we see still people in our audience for our board meeting, that's something that it feels like it's something we can do to try to get more revenue for schools, not just for Duluth, but for all over. But AMSD sponsors a day at the Capitol where all school board members and community members important in education get to talk with legislators about, funding and continue the funding. So I know Member Loeffler-Kemp and I went down to that, and I also know that we also had the ability to sit in and with our quality steering committee and be in community with our teachers and our staff. Sometimes they don't think that we, that school board members maybe don't get a much connection with employees or staff or our leadership. But in actuality, all of us sit on so many committees that directly are with teachers. So again, I guess I'm on a lot of committees with Member Loeffler Kemp, but we're on this committee for 4 hours from 8 o'clock till noon. We sit in community and listen to teachers and our administration have important dialogue on important issues, trying to resolve. And it's nice when we go there and there are things getting taken off the agenda because you've worked together with staff and leadership to solve the problems that some see. And I really encourage both our community and each other that those minutes to those meetings are in our weekly newsletter, right, someplace. So that's where I spent some of my extra time this month.
I think they are in the staff newsletter. I don't know that they go out in the community newsletter.
I feel like
But
I
we get
see them
them.
on
Well,
we get them
we
on
get them
Parent
as a
Square.
staff.
Don't we see them on Parent Square too? Does it go out in the
I'm not
district?
sure
I
if you're
get it.
receiving that as a board member / employee, or
Yeah.
I can double check with Adele. Adele, do our labor management meeting notes go out in just the staff newsletter or the community one as well? Okay, that's what I thought.
And
I stand corrected.
am I getting it
Even a
because I'm
broken
a-
clock is right
because I'm
twice a
a
day.
coach or because I'm on the school board? Okay.
I was just going to say, so make sure you guys read them to see, because there is just a wealth of information in that, the Quality Steering Committee that is discussed. The other committee that I serve on is the Duluth Public Schools Endowment Fund, and I'll hold off saying much because when we do the acceptance of the grant awards, you'll learn more about the wonderful grants that we are giving to teachers across the district and staff across the district.
Member Micasel and then Member Sadowski.
I sit with Member Lofald and Member Sadowski on the intergovernmental committee meeting. And our meeting was postponed last week due to an event that our county commissioners and our city council reps for that committee needed to be at. So that has been rescheduled for tomorrow morning. See you all there, or not.
So I attend the Head Start Policy Council meeting. It's just a great opportunity. I know I say it every month, but I just really appreciate all the parents that are involved and take time out of their schedules, away from their kids. Well, there's daycare provided actually, which is really cool, which allows them to come. But there was a nice meeting. I think one of the things that we talked about obviously is the really big concerns about Head Start funding and kind of what's going on there. And those parents wrote letters and postcards to kind of send to one of our representatives. So that was nice. They took some time to do that.
Member Loeffler Kemp.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, not really a committee, but yesterday I had the opportunity to go down to St. Paul to celebrate Mary Murphy Day at the Capitol, our former state representative who died in December and was one of our district employees at one time, a Central High School teacher, government teacher, as well as strong advocate for Duluth Public Schools and all public schools. And so they had a day to honor her yesterday, and a number of people spoke about her, as well as the governor had a proclamation for her, and we all had blueberry muffins because she sponsored the blueberry muffin bill with Carleton High School, or Carleton third grade students. So we honored her that way, and I have buttons with for all of you with her picture on that we also handed out. So I have that, and I just wanted to mention that. Also, she was just so instrumental in the Duluth, or the community school grants that came from the state that our district benefited from to expand our community schools at Lincoln Park and at Denfeld. So her legacy is here in our district in many ways, and I just wanted to mention that the local news carried a lot of stories about yesterday as well. So if you get a chance to read, and I'll give you your buttons later with her beautiful face on it. Okay, it was a great day.
I saw that this morning on Fox 21 about the blueberry muffins. I thought that was very sweet. Do we have any other committee?
May I?
Yes, please, Member Banks.
Thank you. I now serve on the Transfer Appeal Committee, and we had a meeting just this past week. And for confidentiality's sake, we had the district present its side, and then we had parents come in, and we heard from them, and we made some decisions based on what we heard, and it was well-informed and plenty of information so that we can make the correct decisions. Again, I won't mention family names and all of that for confidentiality, but I want to thank Assistant Superintendent Bonds for the way he presented and approached that committee. So that was my first time attending, and so it went quite well. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Banks. And I think that does, are we good? Great. Now we'll move on to our consent agenda. You can find your consent agenda located on Board Book, and it has many items from both the HR Business Services, the Committee of the Whole, and then also our Policy Committee. So do I have a motion for our consent agenda?
So moved.
Member Loeffler Kemp, do I have a second?
Second.
Member Sadowski seconds. Do we have any discussion about our consent agenda? Do we have any discussion? Member Loeffler Kemp, is your light? Oh, great, thank you. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We have passed our consent agenda. Next, we move on to item 10, resolutions from committee reports. The first one is acceptance of donations to the Duluth Public Schools. Member Lofold?
So I'm moving resolution B-4-25-4093. It is the acceptance of donations to Duluth Public Schools, whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 requires a school district to accept donations by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full. And whereas acceptance of the donations in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools. Now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described donations from said organizations in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools sincerely wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to these various individuals and organizations. And we all have that list. It's noted in our board book. I do know that Denfeld High School is rewarding their students that maintain a strong Denfeld license and privilege, that they're going to Valley Fair on May 16th. And so you'll see a lot of give me donations. And as I look at the donations, and I don't want to necessarily go back to our needs and budget, but our community is so gracious about donations, and so I really have high hopes for partnerships that in all areas, whether it's, you know, in our music, or if it's in our Check and Connect, or if it's in our paraprofessionals, or that we continue to see our community step forward with donations. But I move Resolution B-4-25-4093, donations.
Member Lofold has moved Resolution B-425-4093. Do we have a second?
Second.
Member Sadowski, quick on the seconds this evening. So we have moved by Member Lofold, seconded by Member Sadowski. Do we have any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of Resolution B-4-25-4093, acceptance of donations to the Duluth Public Schools, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Woo-hoo. Next, we have Resolution B-4-25-4094. Member Loeffler Kemp?
Thank you. I move Resolution B4254094, acceptance of grant awards to Duluth Public Schools, whereas Minnesota Statute 46503 requires a school district to accept grants by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full, and whereas acceptance of the grant in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools, now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described grant from said organization in accordance with the terms set forth herein. And it lists a number of grants. Minnesota Council of Teachers of Mathematics received they presented a grant. And then the Duluth Public Schools Endowment Fund has 20 different grants that each year we do at this meeting. And I just wanted to highlight, it's about $36,000 in grants. We're actually looking still at a couple other grants that may come forward after the fact. And the grants went to Denfeld High School, Duluth East High School, Laura MacArthur, a number of them to all of those schools, Lester Park, Lincoln Park, Myers-Wilkins, Ordine East. Some of them were individual for specific staff. Some of them were school-wide grants dealing with different meeting mental health needs. So those were some of the grants that fell under the Duluth Public Schools Endowment Fund. And then Piedmont, Rockridge Academy, as well as ECFE received a grant. We received a huge grant with the Minnesota Department of Health, and this is where I saw it, for Lexi Neff, and it was a $60,000 grant for decreasing the level of lead in water in schools. So I'm really excited about that. And then another one for STEM education funds to Denfeld High School for $4,500. So I move Resolution B4254094, and again, thank the different staff who wrote these grants, as well as the organizations that are supporting the Duluth Public Schools.
Member Loeffler Kemp has moved Resolution B-4254094. Do I have a second? Member Lofeld second, beat out Member Sadowski. So we've moved by Member Loeffler Kemp, seconded by Member Lofeld. Do we have any discussion?
Just one thing.
Oh, yes.
I just want to say thank you, Member Loeffler Kemp. You've always been a steadfast supporter of this funding, and as well as an encourager of people to write the grants and to think about the impact of $36,000 worth of funding that has so many ripple effects in so many areas if you read the different grants. And I just really admire what the foundation is able to do, but also what you're able to do through the advocacy for that. So thank you.
Thank you, and I do want to remind folks that this is the Duluth Public Schools Fund is separate than Duluth Public Schools funding. It's through the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation. So it's separate than the Duluth Public Schools. So thank you.
Do we have any other discussion?
Can I ask Member Loeffler Kemp, I've always been
more discussion.
thinking that this agency that you sit on their committee is donations by former employees of our district, and
Thanks for asking
where does
that.
the money come from for this Duluth Public Foundation? What is it called?
We give out about $36,000 every year. The funds have been raised over the years, so it's the interest on the funds. But individuals do contribute, former staff, community members. It really comes from a variety of ways. When I go out and do the pitches with other members of the endowment board to our school sites, we always encourage them to consider a gift, but also to serve on the board, because the board members are often retired school staff or from teachers to principals, as well as community members. So it was started Yeah. So I'd be glad to tell you more about it.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify support of acceptance of grant awards to Duluth Public Schools by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, moving on to special resolution and actions, we have special resolution E-4-254095, which is our response to the American Indian Parent Committee concurrence and non-concurrence. Member Mike Cassell.
Yes, before I move this next resolution, I do want to express our gratitude for our parent members of our American Indian Education Parent Committee, as well as all the district staff and our community members who work with them and support them. This team of people are dedicated to the success of our Indigenous students. And we just so appreciate their extraordinary time and the energy that they put towards this work. And the commitment that they have to our students and to our district as a whole. So with that, I would like to move Resolution E-4-25-4095, the response to the American Indian Parent Committee Resolution of Concurrence and Non-Concurrence 2024 to 2025. Whereas Minnesota Statute 124D.78 requires a school board to respond in writing within 60 days in cases of non-concurrence to each recommendation made by the American Indian Education Parent Committee and state its reasons for implementing or not implementing the recommendations. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Duluth School Board submits the response to the American Indian Education Resolution of Concurrence and Non-Concurrence 2024 to 2025 report as attached.
Member Mike Cassell has moved special resolution E-4-25-4095. Do we have a second?
Second.
Who seconded?
That was me.
Okay. Member Williams, thank you. Do we have any discussion? Member Williams.
I would also like to extend Chi Miigwech, thank you very much, to our Parent Advisory Committee. There is a lot of time and effort and thoughtful discussion, and just want to acknowledge that we're going through growing pains, and I'm wearing Patty's glasses and can't see very well out of them, sorry. And yeah, we're going through growing pains as there's been a lot of turnover and transitions just with the committee and then with the American Indian Department itself. So I hope that we continue to build this goodwill. I am glad to be engaged in APAC again. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there in person, so it was difficult to follow along the last meeting over Zoom, but I look forward to going again next month and being engaged and having discussions and bringing those discussions back here to the school board and all of that. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. So a big thank you just on public record to our Parent Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Member Williams. Do we have any other discussion? Member Loeffler-Kemp?
Not so much discussion, but again, I just really appreciated the conversation we had at our committee on this, and just really the thoughtful questions that everybody asked, and the thoughtfulness that our staff put into the responses. And it was just a very important conversation that we had last week already? So I just really wanted to recognize all the work that went into where we're at today with passing this concurrence. So thank you.
Member Williams, please take back to the committee our appreciation for their work and the support of all of us sitting at the table for the important work that they're doing. Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of Special Resolution E-4-254095, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Superintendent Magus?
I know during the conversations on serving our American Indian students, we've also had questions and conversation around when our next tribal consultation is. And Mr. Bonds, you were able to set that? You want to bring that up?
Yes, I was just, put the green light on before you started talking. I wanted to make the board aware that we do have our tribal consultation set up. It will be held on April 30th, so April 30th from 1, beginning at 1 o'clock until it ends. So beginning at 1 o'clock at the Big Lake Fond du Lac location, which is 1720 Big Lake Road, and that consultation will begin again at 1 o'clock.
With that, we would very much appreciate at least one board member participating if, quite often, it oftentimes is the chair, but if you're not available, if we could have a designee and maybe, I don't know if Member Williams, it might not work out during your work schedule, but just thinking about having board member involvement in that tribal consultation would be helpful. We do have to work according to the tribe's availability, so we apologize that we weren't able to confer as heavily as far as what dates to choose.
Thank you for that work, both of you. Do we have any other questions or any more of a comment?
I have, this is more of an update. Last week, I was able to get to the Duluth Public Schools art teachers' work display, which is at the Zeitgeist in the atrium. And wonderful art from teachers across our district. I don't know if anyone else has had a chance to see it. They had a reception last week, but it's on display until the 29th. So go do something at Zeitgeist and take in the beautiful work of our art teachers across the district. Yeah, pottery, paint, lots of things.
Thank you, Member Loeffler-Kemp, for that reminder. That sounds amazing. Member Sadowski, or
Member
no?
Lofeld was first.
Oh, sorry, Member Lofeld.
Mine too is a reminder. I'll have Executive Secretary Paquette emailed out, but we have started to visit schools again, like we have made this commitment. We were there in the fall, and now it's time in the spring. So right now, we do have dates and times for Stowe, Laurel MacArthur, and Lincoln. And so I'll have Patty send those out, and then there's a Google form you can access as well.
Member Sadowski.
Very briefly, just wanted to lift up our Denfeld theater department. Got to go see Legally Blonde on Saturday night. It was phenomenal.
That's a great way to bookend this meeting, music, and then I love that. Do we have any other questions, any other comments?
Well, I'll just shout out again, this is Denfeld's night, I think, but, and I think they'll probably visit maybe if I talk with Adele, but the Denfeld speech team is off too, and so is the Duluth East speech team off to the state tournament this coming Friday and Saturday in Shakopee. So we have great students representing the spoken word, going to travel. They won this Section 7 AA, so now they get to also advance to the state. So we'll wish them good luck, and I'm sure we'll see them at a next month's board meeting.
All right. Anything? Okay. See. No. Now I have the giggles. Okay. Yes, so now can I find a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
So moved.
Oh, Member Sadowski, changing it up, coming with a, do I have a second? Really? Member Williams is a second. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please, do we want to talk about it? Sir, I was kidding. I can't even, oh, all those in favor of ending this meeting signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for your work.
Thank you.